3 minutes to the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Chabot.
Gentleman is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This legislation represents an unfortunate missed opportunity. After witnessing the horrible tragedy that occurred at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, we should be coming together and working in a bipartisan manner to take every constitutionally permissive step to make our schools safer and more secure, and to protect our most valuable resources, our children. That's what we did after the tragic shooting in Parkland, Florida. Back in 2018, Congressman John Rutherford, a former sheriff, led a bipartisan group of members, myself included, in reauthorizing the Cop Secure Our Schools grant program. The legislation we passed increases federal funding for school security and expanded the safety measures for which the money could be used. As a result, the Department of Justice announced over $125 million in grants last year to help improve security at local schools. Overall, it's a good program that will benefit millions of students and teachers, but there's always room for improvement. And that's why we should be looking for ways to get more money to schools to increase security. But the legislation before us today contains nothing that will really help make our schools safer. In fact, efforts to add school security provisions to the bill were rejected by the majority. For example, during the Judiciary Committee markup, I offered an amendment to encourage the hiring of retired police officers and honorably discharged military personnel as school resource officers. After all, no one is better trained and better prepared to protect our schools. Unfortunately, the majority rejected this common-sense proposal to help improve safety and security at schools across the country. Then at Rules Committee, I offered an amendment to allow unspent American Rescue Plan funds to be used on school security programs. Billions set aside for schools under that legislation hasn't been spent and could be lost forever if schools don't meet certain deadlines. While we do or did need to protect students and teachers from COVID, more children under 11 died at Robb Elementary in 1 hour than have died from COVID in the entire state of Texas this year. And yet we have $100 billion, billions with a B, in unspent education funds to fight COVID, while only $125 million with an M, available for school security. It seems logical that we should allow these unspent funds to be spent to protect our children and our teachers. The money could be used for metal detectors, to adapt security plans, to train school officials, to hire school resource officers, including, as I mentioned, retired police officers, and to help identify students with mental health issues and get those students the treatment that they need. And yet this common sense amendment, too, was rejected by the majority. Instead of school security measures, we unfortunately have a bill full of likely unconstitutional provisions that won't pass the Senate anyway. The crux of my argument against this legislation, the majority is acting quickly.
Gentleman's time's expired.
When they ought to be doing the right thing. I yield back.
Gentleman from New York.